Welcome to the long-awaited Control Zard deck profile, how the deck came to be, what the idea behind some of the lines are in the Regieleki. A lot of people have had questions about this. Deck profile segment, Perth tournament report. I just landed and I got home about 20 minutes ago from my 36-hour travel day. I'm Rahul Reddy, guys. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Control Zard and why it's called Control Zard and why this list came to be. So huge shout out, by the way, to the people I was staying with this weekend, Kaiwin, Nat, Brent, Robbie, and Max. These guys were awesome, really hospitable down in Perth. So I wrapped up my London adventure at EUIC, and rather than go to Orlando like everyone else was, I went to college in Orlando, and I had, kind of spent a lot of my formative years there. So I didn't really feel the need to go somewhere like Orlando when I had already just been, spent most of my time there. I've already done Disney, I've already done Universal, all that good stuff. And I had booked this trip on airline miles. And I had figured out that if you add some more miles or like more segments to the trip as you go, it doesn't actually get that much more expensive. So I had originally booked the trip from DC to London, and it was like an 80,000 mile round trip, which is still fine because I really didn't want to pay money to go to London. And then when you added Perth, it only added 40,000 more miles. And I was like, wait, that's really strange. That's only like the equivalent of 1.2K USD in miles. And then when I started adding things like Sydney and Indonesia and San Francisco to see some friends, like when I started adding all these new legs, it didn't increase the price anymore. So in my mind, I was like, yo, I can like go around the world for free, because miles, obviously not really free, but free, and I don't have to pay extra money. Let's do this. So originally I had intended on doing a full day in Indonesia and exploring, but Isaiah made finals, so I changed my flight to stay for the finals because I think that's way more important to me, because he's one of my closest friends and testing partners, and I would love to stay there for his finals match. And then I proceeded to head to Sydney, spent 2 days in Sydney exploring. You guys will see a little bit of that in the vlog when that's up. And then I went to Perth to play the regionals. So I get to Perth, and in my mind, I'm thinking Ancient Box is a super good play. I think metagame-wise, it's got a really good percentage share. It's good into everything besides Zard, and I think if we can coin flip Zard, it's a fine matchup. Ancient Box is a deck I didn't put a ton of time into heading into UIC, and a lot of players did very, very well. Gabriel Fernandez and Vinny doing really well was something that impressed me with their list, and I saw that they posted that they would cut a card for penny, and I thought, okay, maybe this is a good 60. Changed a couple cards around that I liked, and I was playing some games into Max and Kaiwin. When I got there, I landed in Perth at like 11 p.m., got to the hotel or Airbnb by 11:30. We jammed games until about 3 a.m., and I was just kind of clowning on them with Ancient Box. I went 3-1 into Max, 1-1 into Kaiwin, and 2-0 into Robbie, and I was feeling pretty good that Ancient Box was a good play. Let's go to bed. Ancient Box seems reasonable. Friday morning, we wake up, we're playing some games. Brent and I play, and I go 0-2 into Brent as Ancient Box, and he's playing Zard. And I was like, how did I lose those games? It didn't feel like I should have lost those games. And Brent started kind of talking about how to play when you have these control-esque cards like Aleki and playing a little bit slow. And Aleki wasn't something we wanted to keep in the list, but Brent did play it at UIC. We were talking about the merits for it, and Brent was like, you need it for C-Pow. And everyone was like, no, you don't need it. And Brent's like, actually, maybe you can cut it. And so then I played C-Pow into everyone, and I was just kind of clowning on the whole room. Like, C-Pow was just winning a bunch of games, and as you saw, Reagan top forward over in Orlando at C-Pow, so our group firmly believes that C-Pow is very strong. And so I was just having like a great time with C-Pow, and I was just winning games, and I was like, yo, maybe I play C-Pow. But then we came back to the Aleki conclusion, which the cut was Luminion, because Luminion was just really not doing a ton, and I felt like we weren't losing a ton in the form of consistency by cutting Luminion, because we wanted second Rotom a lot of the time anyway. So that's kind of how this list came to be with all the cards that are here. Actually, the second Nest Ball was the Luminion cut, because having second Nest Ball just felt better to find pieces like Radzard and Rotom V, which are just more important. Same with Aleki, to just kind of set up your board and play from there. Yeah, so those is the idea behind it. There's 6 fires behind my face, if you can't tell. This is the list we played. So let's talk about it a little bit. 4 Heat Tackle Charmander made sense to all of us because there's no reason to really do a split. We have Jirachi already, so like being worried about Lost Box stuff when you already have Jirachi Manaphy on your bench shouldn't really be a thing. And Heat Tackle is just kind of pretty insane in a lot of situations for that 30 damage. Yeah, so it just kind of didn't make sense to not play the Heat Tackle one, and the other ones are kind of cope to play, I think. You're never really pulling the second attack off on either of them. Like 2 energies, heavy commitment for that, and if you're doing that, you're probably in a losing position anyway. Charmeleon with the Flare Veil makes a lot of sense. You can't get Devoed, you can't get Sableye, whatever, pretty good. 3 Zard makes sense. 202 Pidgeot makes sense. 1 Radzard, staple so far. 1-1 Bibarel, this was kind of stolen from Tord's list. This is where our list and Brent's list kind of disagreed a little bit. He didn't want to play Bibarel because he didn't think it helped you win the matchups that you needed it in heavily enough to play the game. I did think that in the mirror match, especially for our strategy, we're playing like a slow and more controlled strategy. Having like Pidgeot and Bibarel without having Charizards in play necessarily meant that you could play a slow and controlled game while also building your pieces, getting to your Charmeleon easier. You get your Pidgeot card every single turn. You're just basically gutting your opponent of resources every single turn, using cards like Airy and Devo, and recycling them with Alecki and Palpad, and continuously doing this until your opponent can't really play the game the way they want to play the game, which was really good for us in the way we wanted to play the game. Rotom was the MVP of the tournament always. He just draws 3. He's really, really good, and it's a Sealstone target. A little bit sus that we only had 1 Sealstone target, and it did end up hurting me in my top 8 match, which I will get to when we get there. Cleffa is there for decks to play Tomb, and also it's just for your treater as well. So like just having a Cleffa in play doesn't really hurt. It does play a little bit differently when they heat tackle Charmander, because they can heat tackle your Cleffa, which is what I did to Brent in one of our games, to kind of put myself in a position to win the game. Yeah. Manaphy Jirachi just there for all the matchups. Jirachi was kind of the most useless card in the deck throughout the weekend, but Jirachi was the failsafe for Lost Box decks and Tina decks, which didn't really pop up in the numbers we expected, but obviously just to have a reassurance policy. Regieleki with Electromagnetic Sonar was a really good all-purpose tool to bring back cards like Airy, Palpad, Devolution, Counter Catcher, Prime Catcher, just a lot of stuff to put our opponents in a pressurized spot if they choose to play our slow game with us. If they choose to play a fast game and have to chase down all like Alecki and stuff like that, we get more value out of cards like Devo, Boss's Orders, bring up stuff, stick it in the active, run them out of energies, and depending on the different board states in each different matchup, you can choose to target what you want off of Airy, and a lot of the time they can't really play around the Airy, so like sure, they go Candies early. If they go Candies early, you go Devo, and then you Airy them, maybe hit another Candy, get that out of the way. If you ever Airy and hit a Palpad or Super Rod and Charizard Mirror, you're already like really far ahead because now you've taken out their Super Rods, which at that point you can start chasing the energies, and once you start chasing the energies, they'll eventually run out of energies, and you're almost guaranteed to win in Charizard Mirror. And a lot of the time, you don't even take prizes early, so you don't ramp up their damage. And so once your opponent takes their third prize, usually that's when you can start playing your game with Counter Catcher Defiance Band on the Pidgeot, Counter Catcher Defiance Band Pidgeot Iono in the same turn, put them down to 3 cards, no Pidgeot in play. Maybe they have the barrel to play cards. They have a Charizard. They can't one-shot anything on your board because you've only taken 2 those prizes. Rotom should be off your board at this point with either Collapsed or Turo. You should have cleaned that up. At this point, your board is now unkillable. They take a hit into you. You can hit back into the Charizard. You can let them, or you can retreat into a clean Charizard, whatever, hit into them, or Turo up your Charizard, hit into them again. And then Devo their board once again. You should have retrieved this with Alecki at some point, Devo their Charizard, or you can Devo at some point with the Pidgeot in play by hitting into the Charizard early if they have one Charmeleon and they already evolve into it preemptively, or you can chase the Charmeleon early, which then makes the play easier for you to play off of Pidgeot, and continuously use things like Airy, because you're chasing rods a lot of the time in the mirror match, rods and candies, and if you can get rod, candy, Palpad at any given point, you're already putting them so far behind that you can just play a slow, controlled 40-minute game 1 that they just can't win a lot of the time. Like, the mirror match felt super easy this weekend in almost every scenario, and I'll explain as I go through my matchups. 3 Arven, 3 Iono. I did want a 4th Arven a few times, but it was fine. 2 Boss was really good. 1 Airy, 1 Turo. Everything made sense there. Turo was just there, obviously, because Barrel's going to get stuck. You want to pick up your Pidgeot sometimes. Sometimes you're going to pick up Charizard and just put it in a position where the board is just kill my small guys, and we're going to play a small game for a little bit while I'm just bossing up your Bibarel, or I'm bossing up like something on your bench that you shouldn't have there, and you're going to have to exhaust resources to retreat at every single turn. Or I can like make a play with like Counter Catcher or something, given that I've seen your hand with Airy. I have knowledge now with Airy, which is the biggest thing. Like being able to use Airy to check your opponent's hand gave us infinite knowledge of what I can do on my turn and not get punished. 4 Candy, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Poffin was pretty staple, I think. 2 Nuts Ball was pretty good. I think 2 was really the clutch number. I think 1 would have been really greedy. I'm really glad we played 2. 2 Super Rod I think is staple as well. Prime Catcher is a really good ace spec. I think the only thing that's excusable to play is Max Belt otherwise. 1 Counter Catcher makes a lot of sense as well. We were playing a little bit of a slow game, so maybe a second Counter Catcher would have made sense, but there's just nowhere to make space. 1 Vacuum, 1 Palpad, 1 Sealstone. Defiance Band was the only tool we needed. Choice Belt was the only thing that was also considered because Stall is one of the few places that Choice Belt is better, I think, just because you can put the pressure on. But I think Choice Belt really didn't make sense in a lot of situations. So Devo took its spot because now you can Devo things like C-Pow and Mirror Match and put them in a really awkward position. While chaining those things, like C-Pow can take 4 prizes even, and then all of a sudden they have no Baxcalibur left for the game. If they power up a C-Pow and like front load all their energies on something, you should be picking off a barrel if you can at some point in the game. Pick off the barrel, leave them with like a 2-card hand with Iono, take out the C power, they preload the energies. Game is basically over. Like they can't preload enough energies because they need 6 to one-shot a Zard, and the game gets really tough for them to play. One collapse, absolutely bonkers. Really, really good card. This was the list. I was pretty happy with the list and how it went. You can see here that 5 of us played it. 4 of us did Cowboy got first. I got 5th. Max got 8th. Nat got 11th. And Brent, who played 2 cards off with a similar concept, got top 4. So the list was very, very successful over the course of the weekend. I'm going to go ahead and now do the tournament report part. I think Pokedata has an easier way to look at this because Stats Live is no longer a thing. So I think we're going to look at it over there. Yeah. So we're going to go up against Zihan Wei. This player was, I think, completely brand new to Pokemon. He was asking a bunch of questions about how like in-person play works, yada yada. So definitely felt bad for him. He said he came over from Hearthstone and he just wanted to play a tournament. And I beat him pretty much 2-0 in the Zardmere. He didn't even like use abilities a lot of the time. I think he just was completely brand new, which happens. You know, you'll hit someone. So I was like nice enough to explain some stuff to him, kind of tell him that he should be using like Rotom more often when he's just passing. He should be aggressively trying to set up certain things, yada yada. And then he like asked me like, oh, I lost, so can I just go home now? Am I done? And I was like, no, you can keep playing. Like 6-3 still moves on to day 2 type of thing. Round 2 I play against Jake Herden. I don't remember what Jake was playing. It was Gardevoir. Jake was playing Gardevoir. And the first game, Jake was just aggressively kind of pumping resources. So I was able to get an area where I ripped Rod Palpad, actually. And as soon as I got that, I was able to bring back the area with the Aleki, let the Aleki go down eventually. I was just not taking prizes as to not activate Counter Catcher for Gardevoir because Gardevoir like really thrives when they get to use Counter Catcher. And eventually he was able to go boss kill Pidgeot. But I had the resources in my hand because I was either just Rotoming consistently or I was just Pidgeotting. And even if he Iono'd, like I was just putting pieces into my hand with Aleki and doing stuff and just building a pretty big hand. And as I was building my pretty big hand, I was able to respond in kind because I took 1 prize somewhere to match his 1 prize. So I was able to then go Counter Catcher up the Gardevoir EX, vacuum his Hero's Cape Drifloon, take a prize, knock out the active, take 2 prizes, and then he went Mimikyu into the active, leave the board with Curlias. But then I just started like spamming area basically like turn after turn. Like I rotted back Aleki, went back into Aleki, started spamming it, and then I just was able to wipe the board. And then game 2, I think he just completely bricked, and it was just really unfortunate for him. Like, it's just like a really bad matchup if you know what you're doing as Zard, because you just don't give them access to Counter Catcher and ways to like flood their board. Because you're not going to be able to chase like Curlies and stuff early. Like it's just a pipe dream. You're not doing that. So just play for your Counter Catcher, take a prize somewhere on one thing, and then make sure you take 3 in the same turn, going down to 2, so they can never put a Gardevoir in play again. If they put a Gardevoir in play, the game is just basically over. And Mimikyu doesn't do enough damage with 7 damage counters a turn. So even if they go Mimikyu onto Aleki, you just Aleki Palpad into deck, Pidgeot for Turo, like every turn into just energy, or like you go Aleki 1 for Turo, Aleki 2 for like Rod basically, like, and keep that chain going, and then you just never lose the chain more in that matchup either. So I'm 2-0. Round 3, I go up against Matthew Henderson. Matthew is playing Chen Pao. Both games pretty much played out very similarly, where Matthew got off to a pretty hot lead. I just didn't take early prizes. I was counter-catchering Bibs pretty aggressively. And why you want to do that as well is when you counter-catcher Bib, they have to exhaust 2 energies to retreat that. So that means an SCR has to go into the bin, or a Super Rod has to go into the bin every single time. So then that gives you the opportunity to Airy Devo in the same turn. And Airy Devo, bring back Airy with Aleki, or bring back Devo, depending on if you have Palpad or not, puts you in a position where now you are setting up like, hey man, I've now burned 2 of your 3 candies, or even 3 of your 4 candies, or I've hit SCRs and rods, and now you only have like 1 SCR or 1 rod to work with. You're never closing out this game. And both games played almost exactly identically, where like you just kind of exhaust them of resources, you keep putting things in the active. Let's say they don't put the barrel into play. Then you just play a game where you're just regular Zard. They don't have the barrel. You just take your knockouts the way you want to take your knockouts, and you Iono spam them. And that's the game. Like, that's basically what it is. You just become a Zard deck at that point. Like, keep in mind, this is just not... You also are a Charizard deck at the end of the day. So you can kind of do what Charizard does. Round 4, I hit Max Prescott. We're playing 60-card mirror. We both understood that it's only going to be a 1-game series. I basically just turbo bricked game 1. And I lost game 1, and then I was like, you know what, we agreed to a best of 1. Let's go get food. Because I think that the mirror is already like a kind of an RNG fiesta, and I think it's better to gentlemen's into a best of one in these situations. Obviously, it's a very small tournament, so I think a tie would have also been acceptable if we actually played it out. But I think it's better to conserve mental power in that situation and just like chill out and vibe. So Max advances to 4-0. Round 5, I go up against Steven Todorovic. Now, Steven did put out a statement about me. I think I took screenshots. I think he deleted it. It is what it is. Let me see if I can find it on my Twitter. I played against Steven. He's playing Arc Vulpix. Game 1 is a little bit of a back and forth where I end up missing a pretty crucial... I ended up like prizing a pretty crucial piece. I think it was Prime Catcher, so I couldn't take an early knockout on a Vulpix because Steven was playing pretty poorly and taking prizes when he shouldn't have been. I think he should have just been accelerating to the Vulpix with Trinity Charge, which meant that I could never one-shot a Vulpix because I wasn't playing Choice Belt. And all he had to do was basically V-Star for Turo, V-Star, Baby V-Star, pick up his board, and then just win the game that way. And then game 1 came down to 2-2 prizes. I had pulled the Prime Catcher out of my prizes. I had everything I needed to win the game. And I needed him to not hit Turo off an Iono to 2. Because he had a Rad Greninja in play because he put that down for some reason. I don't really know what was going through his head. And he ended up hitting the Turo, second Turo off of the Iono to 2, which was really unfortunate because that meant that I just couldn't win the game because I had no attackers left in the deck that do anything. And he was down to 2 prizes, so I couldn't even like heat tackle or like take my time with it. So I lose game 1, and I'm like, okay, he doesn't know what he's doing clearly because he's attacking when he shouldn't be. He should just be Trinity Charging and then setting up a Vulpix, and once the Vulpix gets set up, the game is actually checkmated for me. I just can't win given my list. And game 2, I'm in an advantageous state. I honor him to 6 because I have to play the game, and I honor him to 6, I guess, like dead cards virtually because attach V-Guard Energy for turn to his active Arceus. He already Trinity Charged the bench Vulpix, and it's very clear that when you do that, you're going to attack for 130 into my Charmander that I just baited you with. And then he goes Nest Ball. He's taking a full minute, like a full minute and a half search. He's like, Nest Ball, Nest Ball. I'm like, okay, whatever. This is good because I want to go to a tie anyway. This matchup seems terrible for me. And then he goes, how many cards are in your hand? And I'm getting really sus. And I'm like 9, but what did you just do? Because I see something out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, I have 9 cards in hand. What did you just do? And he was like, what do you mean? And then I'm not even joking. I looked under the table and he had a card in his lap. I called a judge immediately, and he was like, oh, I accidentally put this here. And I was like, that's not an accident, big dog. And he tried to say that it was, like, that he would have done the same thing if he was in my situation, and that it was, like, he mistook the V for a V-Star, but then the V-Star also was put in the lap and not on the bench. And I was like, dude, where is this story going? And I was very aggressively pushing for the fact that it was intentional, because it seemed very premeditated to me. Like, I have seen people try to cheat, and I think it was like more than obvious that he was trying to cheat in this situation, and the judges deemed that it was because his hand was completely bricked besides this V-Star, this Arceus V-Star, that ended up in his lap that he needed to play the game, that if he did not take the Arceus V-Star, then he would have had a bad hand, dead hand, not been able to play the game. I end up winning game 2, probably go to game 3, get to play from there. But just like, why, man? Just like, why do it? He posted a thing about me on Twitter, deleted it because, you know, I clowned on him a little bit. This is basically exactly what happened. It was like, you place a V-Star in your lap during a Nest Ball by asking how many cards are in my hand. And then as soon as I called him out, he admitted to it, said it was like a nervous tick. Nervous tick shouldn't be cheating, man. Like, hopefully you do not do this again to your locals or whatever, because a lot of your locals were pretty shocked that you ended up cheating. Like, kind of ridiculous that you did that. Just obviously I'm if anyone has played me in the past, you guys know that I'm a very easygoing guy, and I like usually I'm like, yeah, take it back, put stuff back, whatever, just keep playing. Like, I don't care. But just an absolutely absurd interaction that happened. And then he was disqualified. I was given the win, and we got to move on with our day. 4-1. I think Steven would have beaten me, or we would have tied at the very least, given the length of the game. But, you know, just don't be a bad person. Just, it's a card game, man. Like, just take your losses like a man. That's all I'm saying. And then so round 6, I go up against Bjorn. Bjorn came over from Singapore. We were talking a little bit about the structure of their tournaments and everything in general because we were getting deck checked. And Bjorn was just saying that, like, you know, it's a lot nicer to come here and try to make some money compared to going in to something like Singapore where, like, you have to win, I think, the regional league to get a Worlds invite. And it's like a lottery-based system. Like, a lot of things that are just like TPC systems just not great in general. So Bjorn and I are playing. Game 1, he goes pretty bricked. He called for families for 2 Minccino, sorry. And so his board is like double Minccino, Lugia, Minccino. And so I end up just bossing Lugia, collapse, and I hit into it, and he draws and just concedes because it just isn't anything. Game 2, he gets 2 Lugia into play and a Minccino, and I just hit into the first Lugia. He doesn't really get anything, has to read the wind again. I collapsed, bossed the other Lugia, hit the Lugia. He read the wind again, and then I KO active, and he goes back to him, and I think at that point he just conceded as well because he just completely turbo bricked. He like showed me his hand. I was like, all just energies. He's like, what is this, man? And I'm like, yeah, I don't. And he was like, I can't even research this hand because like I have everything I need in here, like yada yada. And I'm like, yeah, that's the Lugia experience sometimes. So now I'm 5-1, effectively locked up for points, whatever I need to get here. 1 win away from day 2. I have 3 rounds to do it. Obviously, I want to put more match points on the board if I can. So round 7, I go up against Timothy Ueda, who's playing Zard Pidgeot with Double Devo, I believe. I think you can pull up their lists now that because we're in the day 2 territory. So now into Timothy, who is playing Double Devo in their list. And so this matchup was a little bit close, but they did play Hero's Cape, which was kind of a free card for me to work with. I did remember like taking note in game 1 that Timothy did play 2 Turos because I was trying to gust stall a couple of things and like play a little bit differently. But Timothy I ended up hitting his, I think off an area, I ended up hitting like Palpad Countercatcher. And then I like did the whole thing where I played it super, super slow. And I knew that I saw a Lost City off the area and I was like, yo, what is happening here? And so I had to put him in a position where he either Lost City's my Charmeleon or Lost City's my Alecki. And he chose to Lost City my Alecki, which was good for me because that meant I could go into Charizard off the Melian. And then when I Turo it, I would have a Melian plus Candy Zard again, which is exactly what I needed to close out the game. And so I was able to close out the game that way because I just was not expecting the Lost City. And the double countercatcher also, like I think the second countercatcher should catch me off guard. But I was able to hit their Palpad pretty early, and I think like a Candy, which put me in a really good spot. And I think my second area got like a Super Rod and like maybe an Ultra Ball or something, which didn't matter. But I got the Super Rod, which like already meant that I had ripped them of very important resources. And so I knew just to play around the Double Devo and all that stuff. And then game 2 just never concluded, but I was in an advantageous position from minute 1. And then next round, so now I'm 6-1, so I'm locked into day 2. Next round I go up against Chongin Johnny Chan, and they are playing Zard as well. Their Zard list was a little bit interesting as well. Again, they also had Lost City and Mist Energy, but what ended up happening is in game 1, they just kind of bricked a little bit, and I just controlled them out of the game with pieces, and I just like ended up taking prizes on like the Charmeleon as soon as they hit the board, the first Charmeleon. They evolved into double Charmeleon in the second game, and as soon as they did that, I chased like the Luminion that they had benched early into like the Rotom that they had also benched. So I went like kill Luminion, kill Rotom, and then I just had to take 2 prizes on something, so I just waited and took 2 prizes that way in game 1. Game 2, they ended up making a play where they went out of 3 prizes before I could do anything. But I had Bib and Pidgeot, so I went Countercatcher, Defiance Band on Pidgeot with an Iono to 3, and I think I bricked them off the Iono to 3 at that point in time because I remember they like were doing stuff and they just like couldn't like get anything else going. Like they just weren't finding pieces. I think like when I did that, they like aeried me and hit nothing, or maybe even like they hit a rod or something, but it didn't even matter at that point because the next turn what I was going to do is just gust up the Rotom, take 2 more, and then I was going to be in a position where I just like win the game with like 1 more knockout kind of thing, and they already put like Luminion into play too. They had the Mist Energy on the Pidgeot game too, which is a little bit spooky, but it didn't really matter in the end of the day. Next round I go up against Brent Tonneson. Brent's playing a very similar 60 to us. He's just playing no Bibarel, and he's playing second Airy and Arven, which is something we talked about. Just something that not all of us could get on the same page about. Game 1 comes down to a position where Brent is pretty much like losing. Like he's getting out controlled by me in the game. And my last 3 prizes are Palpad, Fire, and Candy. And if I take, and he is out of Iono, is out of everything, so he has to kill my active. And I can win the game on, I hit Fire off of prizes. When I take my knockout, if I take Fire, I win the game on Fire, Radzard, Boss KO. If I take Candy, I have Boss City in hand. If I take Candy, I can go Candy Zard, Boss KO, game ends. But I take Palpad, and I just can't close the game, which is super frustrating because, like, both of those are the prize cards I needed to win. And Brett and I were talking about it. He's like, yeah, you diffed me for sure, but it's just really unlucky that those are the last 2 prizes. And then game 2 is coming down to the wire, and I basically, like, have to take prizes in certain ways because I prize Prime Catcher and a Rod. And the game comes down to a position where I have to pass for a turn with something active, and I just win the game if I have Prime Catcher or Boss, and I set myself up for that exact situation, and I top deck the Arven off of Iono I go Iono to 1, draw pass, he takes a prize, and I have draw for turn for game potentially, and the draw is an Arven. So in most situations, the Arven wins me the game, and I knew I had 2 Arvens left when he Iono'd me in like a 6-card deck or something. So I do the Arven, I dramatically flip through my deck, and then I flip over my last prize card, and it's the Prime Catcher. And yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. But I think Brent probably wins that game most of the time because he did prize 2 candies in that game. But he did airy me and hit 2 candies as well, which is ridiculous also. But I think most games, Brent wins that because of his 2 candies. Like his 2 candies being prized, like brought him to a position where he could lose, and me losing 2 candies turn 1 should almost, or like turn 2, I guess, should almost always make me lose the game in that position. So a little bit of like luck for me to even be in that game. So I will admit that that's probably a pretty neutral game, but I should have beaten Brent in that series for sure. So now I'm going to day 2, 7-2. We don't know what the match points needed for top 8 are yet, because obviously it's going to come down to who's doing well at the top. And Brent ended up doing very, very well, spoiler alert, at the top tables. So he made a weird gap for everyone. I think he was 7 match points ahead of his pairing in the last round, which is ridiculous. Round 10, I go against Max again. Prescott, we do a best of 1 once again, because it just makes more sense. And so in the game, I end up going, I like outskill him completely, where I go Iono, Devo in the same turn to take 2 prize cards, and he's going down to 4 as well. And his 4 cards I give him into are Candy Pidgeot, Candy Zard, Boss to kill my Charmeleon. And I was like, dude, absolutely sick, like absolutely insane that happened. And then I just can't really see a line of winning from there, because I prized I prized Airy. So I couldn't really like do a turn where I go like Airy, gut some of your resources. Maybe like I go into Lucky now, pick back up the Devo, try to go for an Devo Airy play. And like now this Pidgeot is now online. I can't really deal with it anymore because I already Devo'd once. And if I go into the Lucky, then he goes on to 1 prize, which then I have to now Devo Iono in the same turn, which is really tough to do, and I think I just didn't have the pieces to do what I needed to do. So I lose to Max. On 11, I go against Christopher Ghazali, playing Arctina. Pull up Christopher's list here again. A little bit of an interesting list. Christopher was playing League HQ, which is actually pretty annoying in Game 2. Game 1, he just kind of rolls me. Like I just don't draw to the judge. Like the early judge just like bricks me, and it's super really annoying. Game 2, he gets off to a pretty hot lead, where he goes leaves into my early Zard, but then I'm able to just respond into the Zard or the leaves, and then like it's a back and forth that I end up just winning. Game 3, I make a pretty risky play by bringing up the Tina that he puts energy on with Trinity Charge because he didn't have the Arc V-Star, and I just hit into it with the Zard. I'm like, you know what, your board is kind of slow. I think if I just hit this Tina early and you don't top deck Arc V-Star exactly, I think I'm in a good spot. And he had like a 3-card hand, and he goes draw for turn. Top deck Ultra Ball for Arc V-Star for Tina V-Star, Max Belt, attack KO me, and now, but he didn't get a supporter. That's the most important thing here. He did not get a supporter, so I'm able to now return to the Tina. He puts up the Arc, I think. I'm able to, he benches something else. I gust the baby on the bench. I think it's another Tina. Take the 2 prizes there. He kills my Zard, and I just win the game on his active, which it comes down to like the wire because of League HQ. So like I have to excel an extra energy to Radzard or find a way to get an extra energy on Radzard because that's my win con with Defiance Belt at the end of the game, potentially. So it's just like a weird mishmash of things. Also, his League HQ turn 1 was really insane against me game 3, I think, because I had Pidgey start and I was like, dude, sick. I can't call for family. That sucks. So it was pretty funny. But I think overall I kind of lucked out in this matchup because if he judge bricks me at some point, it's just kind of really hard to play the game from there. And they do play, 4 judge, so it's tough. Next argument is Haruki Miwa-san. I think Haruki-san is a CL winner. He got 9th overall, so yeah, I think he ended up winning the Champions League in Kyoto last year, with Lost Box. So Haruki-san was a lot of fun to play against. Game 1, I absolutely turbo out-control him in the matchup. Like, it's not even close. I end up just basically, out-controlling, out-resourcing him the entire way. He basically just, puts the bib into play. I keep bringing up the bib. I get stuck. He has to draw cards with the bib. Bib gets stuck again. He benched the Radzard preemptively, gets stuck again. I'm down 3 of 6 in prize cards. As soon as he takes that 3rd prize card after resource exhaustion, bam, we're going in. Game's over. Game 2, it's coming down to the wire. I probably could have played a little bit slower. I kind of got sucked into his pace of just playing really fast. And we end up in a position where I'm trying to stall him out with the slow strategy because he's almost out of resources. And his only attacker really left is Pidgeot, which kind of sucks for him. But I end up realizing my prizes are Candy, Boss, Counter Catcher, Prime Catcher. So I have like no real gust left to kind of make these plays. And so I end up gusting Bib and passing. I end up gusting Bib, Devoing to take the prize on his Zard and putting it back on him. And he goes Evolve to Bib, bench Charmander, draw 2 off of Bib, hits Candy for Pidgeot for Prime Catcher for game, because he got down to 1 prize card. And that was on turn 3 of time, which was really unfortunate for me. So I just need him to miss 1 more turn, and I just win the game. It was kind of annoying too, because like, I guess I didn't need to put Barrel in play, or like I could have maybe like Turo'd it a turn earlier or something like that, just based on how I played. So maybe I made a mistake there to take it to a tie, but I was pretty frustrated that like I even let that game go to a tie, because I think I should have just won that. Next we go against Bjorn, again playing Lugia. This guy just does not draw well into me. Bjorn gets to turn 1, or turn 2 Lugia V-Star attack, KO on my Pidgey, that's in the active, my poor guy. But I respond with a Counter Catcher kill Archeops with Zard. He goes hit into Zard with Lugia, because his Minccino isn't fully powered up. I go kill Minccino or Chinchino. He goes Lugia again, hits. He goes no. He does go Chinchino one shot my guy. I go Lugia or Zard kill his guy, his Chinchino. He can't do a new Chinchino, so he goes Lugia hit into me. Then I go Boss kill Archeops again. Then he goes Chinchino with 3 energies attached. Knockout. I go, and now he's down to 2 prize cards, I think. No, he's down to 1 prize card. So now I go Iono to 1, Defiance Band, I just make a new Zard. I just make a new Big Zard. I make new Big Zard, boss up the, not boss, maybe the Counter Catcher or Prime Catcher or something, up the Lugia, because the gift was on the Chinchino. Take 2, go to 1, and I put him at 1, so he doesn't have access to boss. If he has boss, I lose. Doesn't find boss, I win. Thank God, right? Insane. It was a really, really close game. I think he had to loom me for Serena early game or something, which is why like he didn't have it. But I was like, holy moly, man, what a like absurdly close game. And then game 2, he like, I airy him turn 2, hit double Ultra Ball, which is really funny. And once I hit the double Ultra Ball, because he has to call for family on turn 2. He has no Lugia turn 1, so he has to call for family turn 2. And I go airy, kill the Minccino. And once I do that, I get both Ultra Balls, and I see his hand is like boss, Serena, research, like 2 energies. And I'm just like, oh my God, like you just cannot research this hand. And then he goes, read the wind again. He just shows me it's like 3 more energies. And he's like, dude, what do I do with this? And so I end up just winning because he just doesn't ever get the like luxury to research that hand, and I can just like run through him at that point. So now I'm in up against Jet. Jet is my win and in for top 8, or ID and in. Jet decides to concede to me because Jet gets a better seeding to potentially, he wants to dodge the Zards. Jet knows that if we ID, there's a pretty good chance that Jet and I can play, because Jet's list doesn't really have a great answer into the Lugia deck. He's played against the Zard deck, and he's played it a couple times, and it just doesn't feel great if I hit a couple rods, or if I hit the gates specifically. If I hit the gates early and the Prime Catcher early, then I know it's just Jover. And if I hit the switch cards as well, like there's just a lot of cards I can hit off my Airy that like make Jet really sad. So Jet opts to concede to me, which means that he could have a better matchup and potentially pair into the Lugia that can sneak in, or the Moon that can sneak in. So Lugia ends up sneaking in, and he ends up pairing into it, which is good for him. So Jet ends up getting the matchup he wants to move into top 4. And then I end up fighting Jordan Palmer in top 8. Jordan becomes the eventual finalist, beating me, but let's look at his list a little bit. Jordan's list is a little bit unorthodox and did catch me off guard a little bit, even going in. Basically, Jordan drew the absolute nuts in game 1. Jordan had no idea how to play the matchup. Like, I will be frank with you guys. Jordan had no idea what to do into the control matchup, evidently in game 1. Game 1, my start was super slow, and I had to basically like take a couple turns. Like, I gave up like 4 prizes in the process of double devoing because he used all 4 candies off of the, like, I devoed his first one because he went candy, and then he proceeded to go candy Pidgeot, get Pidgeot for another candy again. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I'm just going to Devo you again. But my start was so slow because I only had 2 Trimaners and Pidgeot, no Bibarel, nothing. And I didn't have supporters. Like, I just didn't have supporters in my hand. So I couldn't, like... I think I Pidgeotted for, like, Arven for, like, Aleki plus, like, a tool. And then, like, I don't know. I just wasn't finding supporters. It was just really annoying because, like, if I found an Ultra Ball off the top, if I found Bibarel off the top, if I found... and I prized Rotom this game. And I prized Charmeleon this game. So I just was sitting in a position where, like, my Rotom and Charmeleon just needed to come out of the prize cards at some point, because then I could use Sealstone to get another piece, get my setup going a little bit better. Or if I had Charmeleon, I can go to Charmeleon, force him to try to kill the Charmeleon, or go into a Zord earlier. And if I can go to a Zord a little bit earlier, I can play around his Devo, and then I have one Zord that can start swinging. But I just never was able to find these pieces, which was really annoying for me, like pretty frustrating, honestly. Because I was always like one piece off of doing it. Like, Pidgeot would get me something, but I'd be missing something. So he gets down to 1 prize, which is quite unfortunate for me. And he... he gets down to 2 prizes. And it's really unfortunate for me because I was like, I'm just not going to take prizes. And then I Airy him, hits Rod Candy, I think. And then I see Magma Base and DTE, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And, like, he just goes DTE to Bibarel, retreating to the Radzard. He accelerated 3 energies to its Zard at some point. Attached to the Zard. I taken 1 prize on a Charmeleon, and then he just goes boss for game on my Rotom, which was really annoying because I couldn't move the Rotom either. No. Yeah, it was Rotom. It was Rotom. Because I got off the first prize and I had to, like, put it down to, like, use Sealstone to, like, play the game, I think. So that was pretty unfortunate that I lost game 1. Game 2, I run him over completely. Game 3, I do my first deck search, prize both Pidgeys and Airy, which was really frustrating. And Sealstone. It was like double Pidgey, Sealstone, Airy were my prizes, and I was like, this is so frustrating that this is happening in game 3. I end up bringing myself to a position where I can potentially win, but I just, like, have just not been able to Airy him at any point in the game at this point, so I just can't, like, touch his hand. So I get to Airy him on the final turn of the game, and I do see that, like, he has double candy, Ultra Ball stuff. So if I give him Ultra Ball candy, then he goes into Zard, which is really frustrating. So I have to take both candies out because he already has a Zard in hand. If he goes into another Zard, I lose the game. Both his rods were gone at this point. So, like, he had 3 energy left, which was really frustrating as well because his one Zard was kind of sweeping my board because I just couldn't find the pieces I needed. But I was in, like, it was like a 1 turn away position to win, and I whiffed something. I forgot what I whiffed, but it was just really frustrating. And then I end up taking both candies and devoing his active, as to not give him a Candy Zard win con if he finds the Candy Zard. And he goes draw, Ultra Ball, Lumineon, boss, last boss. I already had Palpad, so Palpad, boss were gone. No Prime Catcher in his deck. Counter Catcher can't be activated at this point in time. Boss up my Pidgeot, kill for game, which is really kind of annoying. Because I think I would have had this game in a lot of different ways, and I definitely lost on a little bit more of RNG than I would have liked, which was kind of frustrating because I thought this was going to be my regionals to win, or at the very least, like, I make finals against Kaiwin, and we can see where it goes from there. But definitely, like, a little bit of a frustrating loss here. I think I played some of the best Pokemon to play in a long time. It was a pretty good confidence booster to be back at the top table. It's like, I know I haven't really been playing the best recently. Like, if you look at my Limitless page, like, I don't know, like, I went to a lot more tournaments and Reflect here, and even then, like, I've been making day 2 and, like, not cashing, going 140th at EUIC even after all the work I put in, 42nd at Vancouver, 88th at Knoxville. Like, they're not good feelings. And, like, in between, I've played a bunch of regionals. Like, I've played, like, 3 regionals in January that all I didn't do well at. I played another regional in February here that I didn't do well at. So I just haven't had the best season overall, I think. And it felt like I was slumping. But this weekend was really good because it was, like, lighthearted energy. The Australians were really fun to hang out with because it felt more like an old school regional where they were, like, compact and, like, really, like, everyone knew everyone. And so, like, I made a lot of friends this weekend because, like, everyone was having a good time. Everyone knew each other. There was a lot of good banter, a lot of good fun on the weekend, good food, good people. Really want to shout out the guys I stayed with. Like, they were all really amazing people this weekend. They took care of me, so you guys are awesome. Kaiwin, Nat, Robbie, Max, and Brent. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. They really took care of me, and I really appreciate them for forcibly convincing me to play Charizard instead of Ancient Box, um, and then making fun of me all weekend because I had to play a deck that uses my brain. So I do appreciate that because I sometimes don't have a confidence in myself as a player, but they believed in me, and I was able to get the result that I think that I earned. Like I earned a result. That's good. So first time playing Zard in a major tournament actually. Kind of crazy that my Limitless page looks like this. I should probably stick to one deck at some point, huh? But this video is a lot longer than I anticipated it being. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed or learned something new about Control Zard. If you have questions about the matchups, please let me know in the comments. I might do a Metafy class. Let me know if you guys would be interested. Leading up to Indianapolis, I might do one sit down, just like a Control Zard matchup, spread guide, how to play each thing, because each line is a little bit different and you need to play a little bit slow. A lot of games you play from behind and win, being down a ton of prizes. So it is a different dynamic to how Charizard usually plays. All that being said, vlog should be up later this week. Got a ton of content that I want to do. Now that I'm home, I'm reinvigorated. I've got that passion for Pokemon. And hopefully we'll close out the season strong. We have 2 more months, and that's it. We're done. Almost done. So thank you guys for watching. A little bit of a long one, so peace out.